All right, welcome back to another video. This, of course, in the series Psalms 83, of course, in the first video, we dealt with the who. In this particular video, we're going to be dealing with the what in terms of what they are actually doing to you. Keep watching. All right, welcome back to the video, of course. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, of course, I deal with esoteric and exoteric research in retrospect to how it influences you. And what I like to encourage you to do, of course, is be on a more of a pious lifestyle, of course, that will assist you in your soul journey on your path of attainment, okay? So in this particular video, of course, we're going to continue the Psalms 83 series. In the first video, we dealt with the who, meaning who are they? So let's go ahead and recap real quick here. Let's go to Psalms 83 and look at what we're doing, of course. So it says, keep not thy silence, O God, and hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies. So you have to recognize them as your enemies, and that's what we're dealing with. So what I was able to do in the first video was identify them only with using the book of Revelations in terms of what they might appear to be. So we're not necessarily dealing with race that is only in the minds of the people and so forth, lies agreed upon. We want to kind of look at the characteristics, traits that the scripts have actually given to us. So let's go ahead and go real quickly here. Just to recap, we're going to go to Revelations chapter 18. And this is what it says. We're going to start at line 2 in the King James Version Bible. Now, in other translations, which I encourage you to look at, it actually kind of expounds on what we're about to read here. So line 2 says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of what? Devils. Let's see what they look like. And the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. In other translations, it says also detestable beast is what we're dealing with. And in other translations, it also says, and every hated bird, meaning wherever these particular things were dwelling before, of course, you can see those characteristics traits in the improper incarnations that have taken place here. So we're dealing with hateful birds, unclean birds, and we're dealing with detestable beasts. Okay, we're dealing with what? Foul spirits, and we're also dealing with devils, as it mentions here. Okay, so it says what they have done, of course, is they have made the nations drunk with the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Okay, so it looks like this is a form of wrath to them, to where they're causing fornication, of course, maybe to trap something here. It's very interesting when we look at it that way. All the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich with the abundance of the delicacies there. So in the Kabbalah, we also brought out in part 1 how these particular, of course, counterfeits and everything like that, they create luxury and so forth. And that's the reason why it's important, of course, in Revelations 18, when it starts talking about how do you become drunk with the wine of fornication. So that's a form of sleep. That's a form of forgetfulness. That's drunkenness. And what we want to attempt to do on this particular channel is help you first recognize that, and then give you the tools that you need to go the rest of the way, and how to remain sober while you're on this path. Okay, so in this particular section, of course, of the Psalms 83, we're going to kind of try to go into what they're doing. So real quick, let's go back to Revelations. I'm sorry, not Revelations, but we're going to go back to, my apologies, we're going to go back to Psalm. And it's important that we go back to Psalm 83 because it's something that they did. So I'm turning here. Psalm 83 is what we're going back to really quickly. So we're going to skip down here to line 12, because it says, this is the enemies. They said, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. This is what they said. They said they wanted to take to themselves the houses of God in possession. All right, so what I want to do, of course, is I want to go into the keys of Enoch to do a little, here a little, there a little, of course, with Revelations chapter 18, because when in Revelations chapter 18, those ones who said, let us take for ourselves the houses of God in possession, it also spoke in Revelations 18 about how something had fallen and had become the habitations of these particular devils, hateful birds, hated birds, detestable beasts, and unclean spirits. So in the keys of Enoch, we're going to look at page 407 to see if we can expound on that, of course, with some other texts to try to give us more of an understanding of what we're dealing with here in a more higher way of receiving it. So I'm going to start at line 42. It says, thus even in the thrones and principalities of the individual elders, the thought forms of light and the images of creation are gathered, evaluated, and redispatched to create what? New worlds. Remember in Hebrews how it says by whom he made what? The worlds. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Let's keep going. Line 43. And it was explained to me how the higher planes would be called first before the throne to give account of how they use their energies of life. Okay? Those who are of the what? Imperfect light are cast out from the midst of the thrones into the lower heavens, causing great imbalance in the lower heavens. This is the beginning of the great house cleansing, which shall be extended to all realms of the Father's house of many mansions, and shall displace the false spiritual authorities from the higher heavens to the regions of planetary creation. Check this out. Some even to the point of beginning their spiritual evolution completely over again. Okay, that's very important. And I think I did a video on the beginner's guide to reincarnation and what that is about. So we need to understand what we're dealing with, and we have to snap out of it, of course, because we're dealing with a state of forgetfulness. We're dealing with a state of being drunk and so forth. Remember the wine, the wrath and so forth. So what we want to do, of course, is on this channel is we want to help you be sober. First, you need to recognize where you have went wrong, and ignorance is how you've done that. Ignorance of the Father has brought about what we're going to go over in this particular video. So the very first source, of course, that I want to bring out when it kind of gets into what they are actually doing, what are the tools and so forth that they're using, which brings forth this era, we're going to go into the Hermetica Volume 1, and I'm going to leave all these resources underneath the like button in the description area here. So let's kind of go into this text to see if we can get a little bit of an idea of what is going on. So I'm going to read a little bit of this here for you. Now, I'm going to leave these resources for you because I want you to go and open up the investigation for yourself. Like I said, in Psalm 83, Series 1, we went over the who, and we identified them with Revelations 18. Now we're dealing with the what, okay? What are they doing? So let me read a little portion of this to you here, of course, okay? So this is going to be page 243, Hermetica Volume 1. All right, I'm reading the, let's see here. This looks like the Walter Scott translation here. Okay, so this is what it says. So it goes on, I'm skipping down here. So it says, stop the working of your bodily senses, and then will deity be born in you. Remember in Galatians how it says Christ must be formed in you. Okay, so here, kind of going along with that, it says stop the working of your bodily senses, and then will deity be born in you. But if you would be born again, you must cleanse yourself from the irrational torments of matter. Now we're dealing with what? The physical. Okay, we're dealing with the physical here. So it says, because this is a question being asked, what, Father, have I tortures within me? Yes, my son, and not a few. They are terrible, and they are many. I do not know them, Father. This is to Hermes. This very ignorance, my son, is one of the torments, right? So ignorance is a torment. So let's look at some of these. So it says the second is grief. The third is incontinence. The fourth is desire. The fifth is injustice. The sixth is covetousness. The seventh is deceitfulness. The eighth is envy. The ninth is fraud. The 10th is anger. The 11th is rashness. And the 12th is vice. These are 12 in number. Let me skip here. Let me show you what it says. Vice means malice, okay? It says these are 12 in number, and under them there are many others also, my son. And by means of the senses, they force the man who is bound in the prison of the body to suffer what they inflict. But when God has had mercy on man, they depart from him together, one and all, and then is reason. Remember, Christ has to be formed within you. It says, then is reason built up in him. Such is the manner of rebirth. Such is the manner of rebirth. Let me keep going just a little bit here. It says, rejoice now, my son. You are being cleansed by the powers of God, for they have come to build up in you the body of reason, the body of Christ. For the knowledge of God has come to us, and at its coming, my son, ignorance has been driven out. So ignorance of the Father is what is bringing forth these particular torments. And this is what the civilization of deception, this is what the counterfeit spirits, this is what the hated birds, this is what the hateful birds and detestable beasts are using against you, is they are playing on the bodily senses. Okay, remember in this particular video, we're going over the what. What are they doing? So they are basically manipulating you by causing you to become drunk with the external objects that are around you. Like, for example, typically those, and if you have had this experience, kind of leave it in the comment section underneath the like button. I'd like to talk to you about it. But let me know if you've had experiences where you've reached a certain point in your walk or in your journey to where you now are starting to realize that there is a lot of communication around you. Remember in the ancient texts, I think it's in the Kabbalion, how it spoke about these hermeticists and so forth, these pious ones, and how they would sit silently aside with a pitying smile on their closed lips while the heathen raged noisily about them. And that actually makes sense, because what actually ends up happening is, like, for example, when you start going out certain places, you'll start kind of hearing things that sounds like it's related to you, maybe related to the shadow version of you, because once you have kind of resurrected in a sense, and you've kind of shaken off the ignorance and so forth, then you'll have these particular intruders, those particular detestable beasts, hated birds, and so forth, unclean spirits, that you'll notice that they start communicating around you, start trying to like make it seem as if they either trying to create fear. Remember, that was one of the torments, by trying to make it seem like they know something about you or whatever the case may be. So don't get caught up in those floods, if you get what I'm saying. Be like the hermeticists who sit silently aside while the heathen rage noisily about them, if you get what I'm saying. So you got to understand that these are the various different levels that you have to go through, similar to, and I don't encourage anyone to do this, but similar to a video game. So like when you're going through those courses, of course, one level might be easy, and let's say that's the Walking Dead level, where everybody is life, love, and clueless, you know what I'm saying, don't really know what's going on. They open the door down on the first floor, they look out, they don't see nothing, right? But in this particular channel, we want to show you how to be up on the watchtower so you can see a long ways away, and you can see things closing in on us as a people, if that makes sense. So on those video games, maybe level 1, you know, that's the Walking Dead. But as you kind of like are moving up and ascending throughout the different courses of being, if masonry, of working out the workshops of the body, then you'll start to realize, of course, that each level, of course, is approached with its various different challenges. So I want to put you in a position where you kind of welcome these things and you don't get caught up in the senses, to where now you're back in high school, to where somebody's talking about you and now you're just, you know, oh, I'm swayed around with that emotion, or I got that emotion, and then so forth. And then I want to show you how to kind of float above it like you're in a air balloon or something. And then you float below those emotional type of planes and so forth. And then you can be more on your way of attaining the mysteries of a light in a better way. But I wanted to kind of show you the what's in this particular video that these particular detestable beasts and unclean spirits are doing. Because in the great cleansing of the house of many mansions, you have those who are being what? Promoted, and you have those that are being demoted, if you get what I'm saying. So like, for example, if you have these ones who are using their light in the right way, then they want to be promoted, if you get what I'm saying. But then it makes it very difficult to have them promoted because they're watching and they're trying to find somebody who is doing something, you know, in terms of trying to gain the mysteries. But it's very difficult when you are not equipped with the tools that you need, because we have those who are trying to keep you in ignorance. They're trying to keep you blind in a state of unconsciousness, because that's causing you to be a feeding source. Like a cow doesn't know it's a feeding source, you know. So you want to make sure that you are using your energies in the right way, of course, so you can be promoted and not demoted to where you have to start your evolutionary cycle all over again. So that for those that exist, of course, maybe evolution is not in the path for them, and they don't want to. It's a very interesting thought to feel like you need to come back as a child or come back as a bug or something. But the thing is that what has been created, of course, is these particular fences and nets and so forth to try to keep you from going the rest of the way and so forth. So we want to let your people know that we are not going to allow the oppressor to write the last page of that history book for you. So what we want to do, of course, is we want to equip you with the tools that you need so you can go the rest of the way. So there's a couple more things that I want to bring out in this research here, because it's written everywhere. Like once you start cross-analyzing all of the text, then you'll start to realize something, that is all actually saying the same thing. It's just saying it in a way that kind of fits the seal that you have approached. Remember, everything is locked with the 7 seals and so forth. So this is the Gnostic religion by Hannes Jonas. So there's a couple of things I want to read in here. So like, for example, earlier I was talking about that sleep and intoxication. This is page 68. And this is what it says. It says the emotional categories of the last section, now you got to read this now in order to understand what they're talking about in the last section, may be said to reflect general human experiences which may spring up and find expression everywhere. Though rarely in such emphatic forms, and another series of metaphors referring to the human condition in the world is more uniquely Gnostic and reoccurs with great regularity throughout the whole range of Gnostic utterance, regardless of linguistic boundaries. Check this out. While earthly existence is on the one hand, as we just saw, characterized by the feelings of forlornness, dread, nostalgia, it is on the other hand described also as numbness, sleep, drunkenness, and oblivion. That is to say, it has assumed, if we accept drunkenness, all the characteristics which a former time ascribed to the state of the dead in the underworld. Okay, now skipping over here to the next page, it talks about how the state of unconsciousness came about. And it says that as the sons of darkness had devoured them, the 5 luminous gods, the sons of the primal man, and the substance of all the souls later dispersed in the world, were deprived of understanding, and through the poison of the sons of darkness, they became like a man who has been bitten by a mad dog or a serpent. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with, is this state of unconsciousness, because we have those, of course, where Ascension really is not, and it's not really for them. It's not their form. So what they've done is they've created a system to where they've created a place where, like, for example, like that's the reason why I don't ascribe to the whole slave story in the sense of boats and all that kind of stuff and ships, because if you teach someone that their existence began with slavery, then in the ancient text it says a slave doesn't desire the master's estate. The slave only desires to be free. And you can get to the point to where just seeing the top of the hole is good enough for you. Do you get what I'm saying? So you've gotten to the point to where you've gotten so low Do you get what I'm saying? To where the scum of the universe now appears to be desired, if that makes sense, because you have accepted a false identity of being low, and you have accepted the image of the beast as being high. So you need to understand the tricks that are being done there. So we're not necessarily dealing, like I said, with a race thing here. It says, by the fruit you shall know the tree. So we need to know the roots first in order to be able to identify it properly. So I wanted to bring out that text. Hopefully in this video, this is kind of giving you a little bit more to go on in terms of the Psalms 83. Psalms 83 is dealing with these enemies and how they've decided to take the places of God for themselves. And we brought out in the keys of Enoch how they have done that after being cast out because they have not been using their light in the right way. So they've caused imbalance in the lower heavens, and now they're trying to create a way to trap those who have the opportunity to get out and stop them from doing so. It says the Pharisees and the scribes have taken the keys of wisdom and hidden them. It says they have not entered, and they have not allowed those who desire to enter to do so. So we brought that out, of course, in the keys of Enoch. So hopefully this is making more sense to you on what we're dealing with. I'm just trying to do an introduction. So in video 3 in this series, we're going to try to equip you with some tools that you can use to prevent this type of activity from happening. So if you have any questions or comments about this video, please leave them underneath the like button in the comment area, and I'll see you in the next video.